Hello, listeners. Welcome back to T-Boy Swag. It's DJ Pissboy. And this week we have another special artist guest. Would you like to introduce yourself? A returning guest.
Yeah, I was here last year. Hi, I'm Tom Sosnik. This is my last year at UCLA. Yeah. What else is there to say?
I feel like this says everything. I forgot that I probably should have told you, like, oh, introduce yourself, a little blurb about yourself. Give us a little blurb. And maybe, do you have a DJ name? Do you want to think about a DJ name?
I feel like I had one in my freshman year.
Ooh.
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you. A name is an important choice. Don't we know it?
Don't we know?
Yeah.
And little blurb.
Oh, a little blurb.
Last year.
Yeah, I'm an artist. Took me a long time to say that. I probably wouldn't have said that last time we talked. I don't know if I did. I like writing. I like acting. I refuse to choose a discipline. I think that's sort of one of my favorite things about art is learning. And yeah, let's see.
Well, it's great to have you here, DJ. DJ Untitled, DJ. It's like like in my head, I'm just like visualizing as like DJ and then like a censored. Like it's just we'll never know.
Yeah, DJ in progress.
DJ in progress. It's like when I invited you to come on, I was like, Tom's already been on the show and we had like one of the best episodes. It was great. About transnudism. And then I was like, Tom always like is like does such cool art. Like you're like a world arts and cultures major, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. But like you said, like you really don't have a discipline. And I was kind of wondering, how do you define your own craft? It doesn't need to be like something abstract, but like how do you define your work?
Yeah. I think a lot of what I've learned at school here is watching others, like watching what we're assigned. I just think working from your position is always going to be your biggest advantage. So saying what you have to say that no one else can say. And I think identity is a big part of that for me. And so, yeah, I don't know, sort of autobiographical, creative expression is, I don't know. I write a lot of poetry. I act. Um, Recently I acted in a, like as a trans role for the first time, which was really different. Um, uh, yeah, and I'm always making weird video art. And that's pretty much exclusively about I, how I perceive my body in this space that we all share, and that's very much like influenced by people's perceptions of my body.
It's really cool. Like it's almost like your craft is yourself. Like you're like yourself, and your art aren't necessarily like different. Like they're very like similar in that like you are kind of like every aspect of you is in art. I think that's like that kind of multidisciplinariness is also like kind of it makes it make sense of like because people aren't just like one aspect. You're kind of expressing different parts of yourself, or like not different parts of yourself, but like different like yourself in different ways, which I think is
Yeah,
really
and I think a
powerful.
lot of people think about art as creating some like reflection of reality that is different or colorful or uh, outside of themselves. I think that sometimes posed as a positive, to create something like, wow, that's so far out of how I see you, or and that's cool too. Like that's just never been my urge. That's never been like what tickles me. So that's hard.
Yeah, the bird. Um, yeah, I think like the art is very much like the epitomization of art being like a reflection of reality, or being like that kind of ideal like hyper realism, or having a realism to it. Like I kind of like at least like I'm coming from like more of a film background, and like so much of film, like a lot of like the writing, even a lot of people talk about like when they're writing like stories from their own stuff, but it's like everything I'm writing is me. Like I'm writing it coming from my own self and my own perspective and different meditations, but none of the stories are necessarily self-insert in any way. It's just a raw expression of like whatever thing I've been meditating on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess in you talked about how like especially with the video art you make, it's a lot about how your body is perceived and how you perceive your body. And I was kind of wondering, how has your relationship with your body affected your art over time? Like, has your art always been about your body, or is it something you kind of came into?
That's a really good question. Um, I think my art has always been in some way about my body, whether it's performing or making like making sort of fragmented narratives or video art, whatever it is. I think my body's always a really central force that's like just driving me to want to make. All right, it's so loud on this street. Oh. Um, uh, yeah, I think that earlier on, I just didn't want my body to be the central focus of my work. I don't think I would make the statements that I do now about where my drive to make is coming from. I think there were a lot of things I wasn't in touch with, but that were very much present. I would say when I first started making videos that are a lot of found footage or pretty bad quality, footage, like self-portrait stuff. That's all been very much about, I guess, the impact that notions of transness and the body have had on my experience of myself. And that's not really like, it's not about anything that happened to me, sometimes it is, but I think right now I'm a lot more interested in how you take what you've been shown about where you fit and then live in that.
Yeah. It's kind of like a meditation on like, not to use the buzzword positionality, but like kind of, yeah, that like positionality even in like a non like political context, just kind of like, oh, I get perceived this way, or I think I get perceived this way. Because I think, at least for me, I've had that issue of like, as I've transitioned and I've passed more, like people, like I don't even think about it, but they perceive me in a different way. Like I had one person, apparently, like I was like showing her my my tits zine with my pre-top surgery photos. And apparently she did not know that I was trans before that. Like she's like, she knew I was like, she thought I was just non-binary and a little fruity. And she's like, oh, you had tits, like you have had top surgery. And I'm like, how is this like a baffling thing? Like how I've known you for several months. Like I'm talking about being trans.
Whoa, okay, that's crazy. There are levels to that. You thought I was a different type of trans.
Yeah.
I've run into that too later on, where people are like, so is Tom going to be a girl now? And it's like, oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. How did that make you feel? We don't have to get into that on the air.
No, it's like something like I'm cool to talk about. It was just like so baffling. I was just like, what? Just because like I think it's just because even if I wasn't me and I was just a different person, like a different trans person, like I would know. Like I would like, not that like, oh, I would clock myself, but like I don't think I would look at me and be like, oh, that's 100% a cis person. But also like, yeah, that like it's really unusual, I guess, being clocked in a different way. It's like, okay, or like they think like, oh, this type of transness, and it's just like, oh no, like trust me, I am.
We're never gonna look how you expect.
Yeah,
just
we're
stop
not
trying.
Yeah, just stop trying. I think it's because it's like, oh, I don't like what do you like? I think like there's that perception of like trans guys or trans masc people as just like skinny, white, androgynous little like twinks, for lack of a better word. And it's like, no, I'm kind of like Chewbacca. Like, I'm like hairy, I have a deep voice, and like I pass very well. And it's like I'm vibing. Like I don't really have any like dysphoria towards it. It's just kind of like a, that's weird.
that yeah. No, I mean sometimes I miss it, to be honest. I miss like what it's like to be in the wrong space where you're like, I just want to be in touch with that. Maybe for some horrible, like, I don't know. I just want to meet my younger self and be like, maybe you can lean into this. It won't be so scary, I don't know.
Yeah. It's been interesting thinking about like my younger self of like, I used to worry so much about so many things. And like now I'm like looking back, I'm like, why didn't I just loosen up? Like I really like was it really that serious? And at the time it was, but like now I'm like, I could have had a little more fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Now I worry so much about different things. And I'm like, I wish those were the things I had to worry about because now they don't bother me as much.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been thinking about like just kind of like since I've been like working on this zine of like thinking about my chest and even how I've like thought about my chest when I was younger. Like I used to hate it. And now I'm like, you know what? Like I could have like I feel like I would have like now I would have been so happy just to like have boobs and like just vibe and rock with it. But I think it's just because I pass more. I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be kind of fun to have boobs and a beard. Like but like I would have
Oh,
never
okay. I've
thought about it.
never. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like coming from a position of privilege of like, yeah, I'd like to have tits for a day.
Yeah.
When you were in that like 7 years ago, it's like no,
Yeah, I was like, I would have
anything but that.
anything but that. Like I would never go out with like anything that wasn't like a compression bra or like a binder. And now I'm like, I think it could be fun. I think it could be cunt. And it's like of course now you think it's like the grass is always greener.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like there is this newer sort of push to be in our bodies as they come. You know, like I don't feel like that was so much the framing around being trans when I was coming up was very much you were born in the wrong body, and the way that you can fix this is by trying to assimilate as best you can in the other box.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now people are so much more inclined to like take a breath and be like, where does this feel good? Where does this feel bad? Do I really want testosterone? Do I really want to like cut my boobs off? Do I like these are things that are so much that are given so much more time to sort of like naturally come, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If it's been like, months and months and all you can think about is being on testosterone, like that's a sign. You know what I mean? Like I just
Yeah.
feel like people have it doesn't have to look the same way that
Yeah.
I very much thought it did.
I think, yeah, I came out like a kind of similar time of like, oh, like I needed to do this. And even like I thought like I would get bottom surgery for the longest time. And like
Me
now,
too. And now I'm like, oh fuck no.
yeah, I'm like,
Never.
never. Literally, it sounds like hell. Every single time I see someone that's like, oh, I'm going in to get bottom surgery, I'm like, you are so brave. I would
No, I mean
never
honestly,
be
I'll love to
like,
that too though.
yeah, I have
I'll love
like
to that too.
I have made like they are so strong for that. So
I'm
powerful.
just yeah, it's just not in the same level of my priorities as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, but this, I don't know. But also, like, that is not to say that, I don't know, my, that is not to say that this body isn't a minefield. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not all peace and love. Like, but also, like, yeah, I'm not, I'm not, I'm not looking to change it quite as quickly.
Yeah. I think like I don't know what it's in store with me in the future. Like will I get like a who knows what other stuff I'll get down the line. I'll decide I want. But at the moment I'm like kind of just like not like kind of almost at like something that's close to peace, but not necessarily peace. Just kind of like a yeah, this is my body, I guess. Which is kind of nice. Like just being comfortable on my own.
Definitely. This is everything. New York will bring you this. When I lived in New York, we talked about this on the last episode
Yeah.
because we were talking about transnudism, and I was like, was such a big part of is such a big part of my journey. And New York really was the epitome of that for me, because I was like, fuck yeah, these people across the way from me are just going to have to bear my naked ass all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so would I. We were in it together. It was sort of uncomfortable for both of us. Sometimes.
Sometimes. Well, you just need to get over the embarrassment, and then it's like freeing.
Yeah.
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 I guess when it comes to your work, because we were talking before we started, you've worked a lot with Highball Media, and you've been an actor in a lot of their productions and like other behind the scenes stuff. You're talking about how you're pivoting away for your senior thesis. Could you talk about maybe your senior thesis and what it's about? Because I'm kind of curious. Based just because a lot of your work has been about transis, and I'm curious if that like theme is carrying into your thesis.
Yeah, you know it. For my thesis, I'm doing a lot of research on different monsters, on the construction of monsters. And it's all going to culminate into a series of sculptures, I think. It's almost like props, almost like a set for what would be sort of like a Frankenstein's lab, but very grungy, very much thinking about like trans aesthetics, thinking about what that would look like if it was like a scene of transforming bodies, like an auto shop or a doctor's office meets a tattoo parlor, like all of these places where we go to fix things or change things that have to do with bodies, but taking that in a very literal sense.
Oh my gosh.
Super weird cool. Inspirations. What?
That's so cool. Like I'm like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with this. Please continue. I need to hear more about this.
Yeah. So my inspirations are kind of all over the map. I think I'm also really interested in the construction of gendered monsters, and how we sort of see these masculine, scary faced, like out of body, super crazy dude monsters. And then femme monsters are often like science fiction-y, like robots made by men for oftentimes sexual slavery of sorts. I think that's a lot more where this villain monster construction comes from, like Under the Skin, super crazy scene where she's like, wow, I can't even use my pussy for pleasure. And I'm like, damn, that's crazy. Super fucked up. She's like made to kill men and suck them into this pool, but like she can't even really. So complicated. Anyways, and like Ex Machina and all these.
What is the no pussy feeling lady from?
Under the Skin.
Under the Skin.
Scarlett Johansson is like trying to have sex, and she realizes that she doesn't actually have like a vaginal opening.
Oh my God.
Sorry, that's such a spoiler for all of the viewers.
This is what's getting me to watch this movie. I'm gonna watch this movie now. Thank you for telling me about this.
Yeah. Or I mean, Boys Don't Cry, honestly. I'm gearing up to revisit that myself. I haven't seen it in like a few years. Really a big inspiration for this is a book called Can the Monsters Speak? I'm wondering if you've read it. Paul Preciado, who wrote An Apartment on Uranus or something like this. My Apartment on Uranus. Something.
Oh my gosh, no, I have not read. I haven't seen this. I've done so many writings about monstrous feminine and all of that. So I'm like genuinely shocked I haven't read this.
Well, it just came out, and it was actually, I think a lot of it is written about this experience of the author speaking at an event with a bunch of psychoanalysts and presenting this research about the sort of monstrous connotation. Yeah, I mean, I'm just also Jack Halperstein. I have no idea how to pronounce people's names. I also should preface that I don't actually speak a lot because I'm a hermit that lives in my, work out of my room.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, Jack Halpern
Has also written about
like monsters. I think there's like he wrote like a book on horror.
skin
right?
shows.
Yeah.
Skin shows. Yeah. Something about horror. Yeah. All of this is really what's fueling my research about what we put into monsters and how they become this sort of like we pour a lot of really interesting fears, a lot of things that reveal a lot about us as a society into how we construct monsters and what's scary to us, who's an outcast, and what their threats are. And I'm just really interested in terms of where it's coming from in my artistic practice and turning this into a scene with a bunch of sculptures is just that I've been writing a lot of poetry over the last year, and I've been acting, and I've been using my hands. And right now I feel kind of a lack for words to describe what I'm feeling. And I just want to make stuff and do research that sort of fuels the choices I make around that. So, yeah.
That's so cool. Is it just going to be a sculpture kind of experience where you like walk through it, or is there going to be is there going to be a performance aspect to it? Because I'm really fascinated by like just having the sculptures speak for themselves. It's like a fascinating concept.
Yeah, I think it's gonna in my head. It's sort of like a moving set where you set it up to be activated, but it doesn't always have to be activated for it to be like a piece that explains itself. But yeah, I do sort of imagine like I also want costume design to be a part of it. Like I am very much bringing elements of theater into this and filmmaking, I think. In the case that I make something that's too heavy or too big to actually bring to my final display, I would probably have to document it anyways. So it's designed to have many uses, but I'm thinking I want to use a lot of wood and metal and leather, and all of those things are hard to move around a lot.
Yeah, that's so incredibly cool. After this, I'm going to be asking so many more questions, and like we need to have a deep discussion. Who knows? You may be back because we need to talk about trans monsters. I love this topic. I guess like you've mentioned, you've been doing a lot of performance work, and I guess like for trans performance art, we've like talked about like the relationship with like your body and kind of like performing that type of relationship. But I was really curious about the acting, because when you act, you're kind of acting a character. You have a character that's been written for you, kind of. And I was just curious as to like what your relationship with acting was as like a trans person.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's always felt really natural to me. I think I've performed so much of my younger self just to get through. I feel like it's a muscle I've been like working. And recently I got to play an actual trans character, and I feel like it actually wasn't as different as I thought it would be, I was like, oh, this still isn't me. And almost being closer in that way was confusing. Obviously, like I don't want cis people playing trans characters. That, but I don't know. I guess it wasn't as sort of like mind blowing as I thought it would be. Like come to Jesus moment. It was just acting, but it was really, it was really special because I just didn't see that happening quite as fast.
That's really interesting of like having a sort of like a suspense, an internal suspense about acting as like a trans character, that the reality just kind of being like, oh, it's just acting, like is hilarious. But I was wondering, like, I guess you've only done like a trans character recently. How has it been performing as like a presumably cis character?
Honestly, it's one of those things where I'm on stage and I've never felt that comfortable in my own skin, you know? And I'm like, fuck, that's kind of sad. Maybe that's why actors like keep coming back to the stage, because there's something there that makes you almost feel more like yourself. It's like garbage day. They're shitting on me. Yeah, but where was I? Ah, yeah, I love playing cis guys because I'm like, wow, I can just dealy do my way through this. And I'm not gonna have to worry about anyone discovering who I really am, because I'm already the context, like I'm already performing. So nobody's worried about if I'm trying to deceive them, because I already am. Does that make sense?
That's so interesting. Oh my gosh.
It's like, yeah, obviously this guy's me. He's 30 years old and he has a baby that he abandoned. And I am not that guy. But isn't it fun to think that I am? I don't know.
That's so fucking funny. Oh my god. It's like the layers of like deception of like in when you're trying like so much of like being trans performing certain gender stuff, or at least like when you're trying to pass, like you have to perform so much gender, but like the cons, like I think that like you're acted by that character, it's like I get it, I get where it's like that sounds so liberating in a weird way.
Because there's something about, and honestly, acting in a short film for the first time, I don't really feel this same way about being on screen. I think it's the energy feels a lot more intermittent. I don't know. It's very touch and go. But being on stage, it's really this sense of belonging that is sort of incomparable, and I think it touches a very trans part of me, as does all art, because that's my throbbing core, not in that throbbing was a stronger word choice than I should have gone with.
It's that's a perfect word choice. I think for it. Like, oh my gosh. Acting is I'm an awful actor personally. But like I'm absolutely dog shit at acting, and I don't get it. It's like a lot like how music is for me. I just don't get it. But I think like
wait. You don't listen to music?
I listen to music.
You don't make music?
I don't make music.
Okay.
Never be like, oh, you could make a song. Fuck no, I can't. I don't even know where to start. I don't know how beats work. I don't know how any of it, like, I just can't wrap my head around it. But I think like I like it's almost like I wish I understood more of like I could do acting more and like kind of because so much of like when I think of acting, I'm just like, oh, just saying lines or something like that. But I think like that kind of deeper experience and even how that like the acting of like of you with like as like a cis man to like your performance art of like acting and performance art kind of get conflated together. But in this, it kind of it's like almost like a yin and yang.
Yeah. Yeah. Performance art is in a different vein for me. Like activating this sculpture, I think is going to be less like being in a, like I played Puck, from A Midsummer Night's Dream. And that is a very much stepping out of yourself and into a world that is so different than the one or the one that you would write. And performance art feels a lot closer to home for me.
It makes sense. I think also how that like relates to your video art as well, like that, and then into sculptures. I'm also curious, like I said, the sculptures, like what type, like you mentioned like leather and metal, what type of like aesthetics are you kind of going for? What like influences you visually outside of like you said like a lot of like body shop in like both like a doctor sense and in a mechanical sense, like with cars. I'm just kind of curious of like where is your influence visually of like you have all this research and a lot of writing and theory, and I'm curious of what your visual inspiration is.
Yeah, very much looking towards industrial spaces. I've done a little bit of woodworking that I would like to expand, but definitely sort of grungy, dirty, almost the way that you would think of a psych ward in the late 50s, that has not been touched since it was like shut down 20 years ago, what it would look like if you stepped in there. I don't know. I guess it's like, I would almost want to turn that back on you and be like, what does that fit into how you would in your head conceive of a workshop where you make a trans monster? Like, does that feel right? Like this very metal, like, and this is something that's so personal to each person. And so it's like, not like, this is how my workshop would look. Like if I was like Matrix, whatever. But yeah, trying to tap into the mainframe, man.
I think like I really like connected with the industrial parts of it when you were first explaining. I was like, oh my god, I get it. Like I get it of the want of like the industrial kind of like the industrial making of something of like the raw materials, the like almost like pre-plastic refinement of everything. Because I've one of my other friends has like is doing like a project on trans mix of trans identity and mixed identity and the similarities behind it. But there's also an oil refinery process called transmix. And so visually they've been inspired a lot by like industrial like oil refinery stuff. The process of like refining oil.
Yeah.
And it's trans people find inspiration in the craziest ways, but I feel like there's something there.
In the mechanical process of changing something that you see one way. Like that's what's so crazy about diamonds and oil, is that you reach really far in and you do all this crazy shit to bring out something that is like so useful or so unexpected and gorgeous. But it's this super mechanical, like laborious process. um, that feels really right. I also just feel like it captures the gravity, like the weight of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like like hormone replacement therapy does it sometimes feel like I'm taking myself into the mechanic and, you know, ripping myself apart just to like fix the little wrong fuse. Like that's sometimes how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, yeah. I think I'm really influenced also by disability studies and like crib theory and sort of the alignment of like medical models of disabilities or just like DSM origins. I think those are like a very strong interest to me.
Yeah, I think like so much like I've heard I've recently heard like it read like recently talked a lot about how crypt theory, like crypt time especially, is so inherently queer and vice versa. Like they like a lot of disability studies like theory and like queer theory are they're hand in hand. Like they're hand in hand wandering through a delightful little like garden together. It's so they're so inherently tied together. And I think like the medical models of transness and how like disability is like very like queerness was always like was previously considered like a issue that needed to be fixed. And now like and the goes into like even how gender affirming stuff is kind of like talked about sometimes like as a fix. But I think
For
like
sure.
even with your wording of like the body shop, like a body shop, it does fix things, but also it can make things better. You can upgrade things. Like whenever I think of body shop, I think of like South LA, Southeast LA, like car culture
For
of
sure.
like,
For sure. Same with tattoos. I think that's why tattoos like also came to mind because I think a lot of these aesthetics come in. And it also just feels like a place where people go to like almost decorate themselves in the same way that people decorate their cars. Yeah,
yeah, like I think even with, especially like with like, I feel like so much of like trans, like the physicalness of like a body shop or of a tattoo parlor, that physical act of like moving and getting rid and changing things. Um, I think for like trans people, it's like I wit like it has like even like with like top surgery, for instance, like I didn't physically take my own boobs off. I went to the doctor, I got knocked out, I woke up, no tits. And I couldn't sit up for a while. But it and it felt like really cathartic, but it was like kind of underwhelming almost. Like I was just kind of like, oh, no tits now. Okay. But like what I wanted was that act of just being of like changing it.
that catharsis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really, yeah, and super strange connection. But there's this music video, I think it's Travis Scott, where he's in this elevator and he's like part robot and he's getting a tattoo and it's like being welded onto him. And I've just been, this image is like seared into my brain because I'm like, that's how it's like feels to want to like change your body or to think of your body in this way. Um, I just love that. Yeah. The sparks. I'm like, oh, you know, it feels like it has energy.
Yeah. And even now that I think like when I think of like the like top surgery, like double incision scars, like it almost feels like it'd be so cool to have it like soldered. Like it like I wish it had
Yeah.
that feeling of being soldered close, like with
Yeah.
the clean solder. And it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
to be a robot.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Gosh. All right. I think I was gonna pause for 1 second because all right. back. I don't know why I'm saying that. Just, I guess, for my future editing knowledge. I get, we've talked a lot about your thesis, and this is like work that's going to be coming out like by the end of the, like before like the end of this like school year. Like it's going to be like June-ish, probably. Yeah. It's going to be coming out soon.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, I guess, what are your artistic goals for both this year, but also kind of going forward as a like a newly graduated person?
Yeah, this is a big question. I mean, I just want to keep making stuff. I want to have the energy and the space and the money and the time to keep making stuff. That's really what it's all about. And this is going to be such a laborious like project that I'm sure parts of it won't feel done by June, and I'm sure it will seep into the next year. I generally take things on and they sit with them for 6 months to like 2 years at a time.
I get it. I feel like this is something like I'd be sad to see it stop at just your thesis showing. I want to see where it grows and what you make out of it, because if we could talk about this more after the show, but I will definitely be down to help in any aspect I can. Because this is such like a big interest. I've recently, like I got into zine creation recently, and like I made a zine that's like kind of talking about male hysteria and like monstrous feminine as like, but applied to men, not like making men women, but like how can a man be monstrously feminine? And it's all just based around one really shitty movie, and I just like got so incoherent with it. But it's
what movie?
It's called Layer of the White Worm. It's a 80s movie. It has Peter Capaldi in it. Peter Capaldi was mainly the focus of his character is the focus of the zine, because at the end of the movie, there's a twist right at the end, where the movie isn't good. I also need to set this up. This movie is awful. Like, it's not good. It's a bit hard to watch at times. But it does have Peter Capaldi and Hugh Grant somehow.
Okay. Hugh Grant's always there.
Yeah, Hugh Grant. It's like, okay, this is interesting. And then Peter Capaldi too. It's like, oh, this is what? And the character, like basically like there's like a woman, femme fatale, but she's like really lesbian. And she's like sultry and like seducing and like killing men, but then like keeping women. And her bite turns you into like, she's a worm, like a vampiress, and her bite turns other people into vampires as well. And Peter Capaldi's character gets turned into a vampire. He gets bitten, and there's like this scene where he's like realizing, oh no, like I'm gonna be her, like I'm gonna be a vampire. But the crazy twist of it is just he doesn't martyr himself of being, oh no, I'm gonna be so awful, you need to kill me now to save whatever, like I'm doomed. He accepts it and becomes evil. Like like he becomes just as fucked up. And I think like
sometimes I'm like, cis people just don't know what it means to be suicidal.
Yeah.
Like, get in touch with it, babe. It's okay.
Like you don't have to martyr yourself. You can just commit to the bit. You could commit to it. Like, does it have to be that serious? No, you could have fun. Like, who said being evil was bad? What should listeners look out for from you?
Ooh.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm like not really sure I'm someone you can look out for, but
I don't know. This is the shameless promotional moment.
The shameless promotional moment. I mean, show up to whatever WAC is doing for our senior project. That's probably where this will be shown. Whatever the hell I come up with will be there.
Oh yeah.
And beyond that, I'm around. I don't know. My social media is probably is linked to your page. I'm respond sometimes, you know.
There's just some
when
guy
Evan hits me up, I respond, you know.
Yeah. Just some guy.
I'm just some guy. Yeah.
I love that.
Some guy making stuff.
Just some guy making
aren't
stuff.
we all?
Aren't we all? That's all I am. I'm just some guy. I have this radio show out of some vague amount of spite, and and I'm just doing it. I'm just some guy making things.
From two guys making things, you know. Have a great Sunday. That's when it airs, right?
Yes. Have a great Sunday. Have a wonderful Sunday. Do something really transgender today.
Always.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. And I'm so excited that we got to talk and hear about your work. Next week, we have another guest lined up. Look at me planning. So listeners, tune in, and I'll be linking Tom's stuff everywhere. So go check him out. Say hi. I don't know. Send him. Do you like cats?
Sure.
Yeah.
Send me live cats.
I was gonna say send cat pictures, but live cats also work. All right.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, live cats. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Bye-bye. Salute.
I'm going green, pick at the shell, pile the bottom on the well. I wear my body. I go bottom, struggle for air. I go on like a prayer. I wear my body. Uncle cousin, scrap from the bin, taking on
A pity she does not exist, a shame he's not a fact. The only girl I ever loved was Andrew and Drag. There is no hope of love for me, from here on I go stag. The only girl I'll ever love is Andrew and Drag. Andrew and Drag. It's really not my bag. Just thought it might be funny to see Andrew and Greg. The moment he walked on that stage, my tail began to wag. Wag like a little wiener dog for Andrew and Greg. Andrew and Greg. Andrew and Greg. I've always been a ladies' man, and I don't have to brag, but I've become a mama's boy for Andrew and Drag. I've signed away my trust fund, I would even sell the Jag if I could spend my misspent youth with Andrew and Drag. Andrew and Drag. Andrew and Drag. So stick him in a dress and he's the only boy I'd shag. The only boy I'd anything is Andrew and Drag. I'll never see that girl again, he did it as a gag. I'll pine away forevermore for Andrew and Drag.